What's up, everyone? Today we're doing an intro to jazz theory in just 10 little bite-sized lessons. Each of these will give you a starting point into a lot of stuff to work on. Let me know in the comments below which of these you'd like to see a deeper dive on. I kind of just wanted to scratch across the surface to see what areas people were interested in seeing more videos about. Number one, 2-5-1 progressions are the building blocks of most jazz standards. Let's build one in F major. Our key signature only contains a B flat. So we know that all of our chords are only going to use the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, and B flat. To build a 2 chord, we stack up thirds starting from the second note of that major scale. That gives us G, B flat, D, and F. To build a 5 chord, we're going to stack up thirds starting from the 5th note of the major scale. That gives us C, E, G, and B flat. To build a 1 chord, we do the same thing from the root of the scale. That's F, A, C, and E. Inversions are super important in jazz, not just for keyboard and guitar players, but also for melody players in terms of how we can build phrases not always having to start on the root of the chord. So we first want to practice 1-3-5-7, 3-5-7-1, 5-7-1-3, and 7-1-3-5. If you're a chord player, you can practice playing those as chord voicings. If you're a melody player, you practice these as arpeggios, up and down. You'll notice that when we have smaller intervals like a major or minor second on top of the chord, it's a little bit spicier than when that interval is spread out. That's the power of inversions. Don't let chord symbol extensions confuse you. Any type of 7th chord, whether that's major, minor, or dominant, only has 4 notes in it. But there's only 3 other notes in the minor or major scale from which it's derived. That leaves us the 9th, the 11th, and the 13th to use as extensions. Let's look at minor chord extensions first. The 9th and the 11th over minor chords just sound great, and they're commonly used in voicings even when the chord is not marked as a minor 11th or minor 9th chord. The 13th is the tricky one. The natural 13th, so for example, over a C minor chord, we're talking about the note A natural, because it's the 6th note of that scale. Works great in Dorian modal jazz contexts, like if we're playing Impressions or Maiden Voyage. And whenever that minor chord is functioning as a 2 chord, like the 2 in a 2-5-1. But if the minor chord is functioning as a 6 chord instead of a 2 chord, like the first chord of All the Things You Are, we don't want to play that natural or raised 13th or 6th scale degree because it's not going to fit into the key signature. As noted here, the D flat also doesn't necessarily sound good as a note to hang out on because of the dissonant minor 9th interval created between the 5th and the flat 13. Of course, the exception is when we're using it chromatically in an enclosure or some other type of line that incorporates non-diatonic notes. Over dominant chords, we can alter the 5th or the 9th up or down by a half step. And this is where you get all the memes about jazz chords being like way too many crazy extensions. But really, when we break it down, there's not that many useful ways to modify a chord signal. A chord symbol. The flat 9, flat 5, or sharp 9, sharp 5 are very common alterations to the dominant chord. Note that the flat 13 and the sharp 5 are the exact same note, just spelled differently. Hey, if you're finding any of these tips interesting or useful, let me know which ones you'd like to see a deeper dive on. Leave a comment below, and make sure to like and subscribe for more free educational content like this. The very best way to learn how to use chromaticism, or using notes in between the notes from the key that we're in, is to learn a lot of bebop heads, like Celia, Donna Lee, or Anthropology. A good exercise to get it in your playing is to practice lower chromatic neighbors resolving to chord tones, root 3rd, 5th, and 7th. And then upper neighbor from the scale, lower chromatic neighbor, and then the chord tone. You can incorporate these at the beginning, end, or middle of an improvised line. The most common substitutions for 2-5 progressions is a tritone sub or a backdoor progression. A tritone sub is when we change out the 5 chord for a dominant chord with the root a tritone away. A tritone is the interval between a perfect fourth and a perfect fifth. So C to F sharp is a tritone. So we can replace a C7 with an F sharp 7, and our guide tones, our third and seventh, don't actually change, they just switch places. So C, E, and B flat. Now we have F sharp, A sharp, same note as B flat, and E natural. A backdoor progression replaces the 2-5 with a minor 4 chord and a flatted 7th dominant chord. So it's just like playing the 2-5 from the key that's a minor third above where we started. So a backdoor progression to a C major would be F minor 7, B flat 7. That would typically resolve to an E flat major. It's often easier to think of complex extensions as triads. For example, to create a D7 flat 9 flat 5 chord, we can think about that as an A flat major chord over a D major chord. A flat is the flat 5, C natural is the lowered 7th from the D dominant chord, and E flat is the flat 9. This makes a great piano voicing, but it also gives us a shortcut to melodically access those upper extensions without having to do a lot of math at the same time. The blues scale is a recently invented scale describing the way that performers of Black American music styles, such as jazz and blues, were using altered versions of the minor and major pentatonic scales. It's not a bad learning tool. You should know about it, but just know that it's a rule of thumb. I made a video diving into the history of the blues scale called There Is No Blues Scale, and I definitely recommend checking that video out if you're interested in more. I think it's one of the best videos I've made, and it goes back to the source material of African music and early jazz, and yeah, so check that out if you want more context about why I would say there is really no blues scale. Rhythm and syncopation are just as important as the harmonic and melodic content of our music. The Charleston rhythm, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, is in the DNA of all music derived from swing, including bebop, post-bop, funk, even electronic dance music and pop music. Studying how great improvisers use articulation and phrase their melodies to contain sophisticated rhythmic patterns is just as important as studying the notes and chordal relationships. And I feel that it gets way less attention in the music education space. Minor 7 flat 5 chords, aka half diminished chords, are easier to think of as a minor chord over a different root. So instead of thinking about C minor 7 flat 5, we can actually just think of E flat minor 7 over top of a C. And most of your melodic lines that sound good over an E flat minor 7 to A flat 7 chord progression, a 2-5, are also going to sound good over the related minor 2-5, which would be C minor 7 flat 5 and an F7 flat 9, for example. This way you can double your melodic language over minor 2-5s without having to think of a new way to approach that type of harmony. Everything is just shifted down by a minor third when we're talking about where the root of the chord is. Let me know which ones you'd like to see a deeper dive on. Leave a comment below and make sure to like and subscribe for more. You can also check out my music. It's on all streaming services as well as on Bandcamp. That's all for now. Let me know what you found the most useful and what you'd like to see a deeper dive on. Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell if you're interested in seeing more videos. Thanks. This is my assistant, Maddie.